I was 16 the first time I felt like something in the dark was watching me back. Not imagined, not exaggerated, real. And that night changed the way I've looked at phones, at doors, at silence, ever since. It was a Friday when I stayed at my best friend Ethan's house for the weekend. His parents were out of town visiting his aunt in Florida, so it was just us. 2 kids with bottomless bags of junk food, a stack of video games, and the kind of freedom that only teenagers and thieves fully appreciate. We did what we always did. Trash-talked during Call of Duty matches, devoured an entire bag of Doritos between us, and laughed until our stomachs hurt. It was around midnight when we got bored enough to start prank calling random numbers. You know, the kind of stupid stuff teenage boys do when their brains are half sugar, half static. Ethan dialed a few numbers first, pretending to be an angry pizza guy, a lonely widow looking for her lost cat. Dumb stuff. We were howling. Then it was my turn. I punched in a number at random. I didn't even look at the area code. Just hit dial. The phone rang once, twice. Then, yeah. Not hello. Not who is this? Just a low, gravelly yeah. Like the guy had been waiting for a call. Like he knew it was coming. I froze. Ethan, still giggling, whispered, "Say something, dude." I stammered. "Hey there, sir. I was just wondering if you've got Prince Albert in a can." "You sure your name isn't Ethan?" the man interrupted. My blood turned to slush. Ethan's smile dropped. His hand slowly fell from his face. The room felt colder. "Hang up," Ethan mouthed. I did. We sat there, wide-eyed and silent, a number I picked at random. No one had spoken Ethan's name during the call. There was no caller ID. Nothing. He tried to laugh it off at first, shrugged, said it must have been a coincidence. But his hands were shaking. Mine too. We pulled up Google, Reddit threads, anything that could explain how someone could guess your name from a phone call. Deep web data leaks, psychic pranksters. Nothing made sense. Ethan considered calling his dad, but then said no. He'd only get in trouble for having someone over. We decided to say nothing. By 1 a.m., the panic had faded a little. We tried to distract ourselves with a movie. Some science fiction comedy, I think. I couldn't focus, kept glancing at the front door. Then, we heard it. The screen door creaked. We both went stiff. The front doorknob rattled, stopped by the lock. A slow, metallic scrape like fingers grazing the handle. I crept toward the window, pulled back the blinds just enough to peek out. And there he was. A tall man stood on the porch, staring straight at the window. Straight at me. I dropped the blinds like they burned my fingers. "Who is it?" Ethan whispered. "The guy. The one I called." "No way." I nodded. "We need to hide." We bolted into the kitchen. My mind raced. The front door was locked, but the back. "I didn't lock it," I breathed. "What?" "I forgot to lock the back door." The words were still leaving my mouth when we heard it. Clack. The backyard gate. I turned toward the hallway, and there he was, standing behind the glass of the back door, motionless, watching. I dropped to the floor, crawled back into the kitchen. "He's there," I whispered. Ethan didn't ask questions. He knew. We didn't speak again. We just moved, fast but quiet, upstairs, to his bedroom. We climbed under the bed, the dust brushing against our arms, a hanging bedsheet draped low, maybe low enough to hide us. Then the sound began. The creak of the back door opening. Each door downstairs swinging open. Living room, kitchen, hallway, closet. Like he was searching. Then the stairs. 1, 2, 12 steps. A slow, heavy climb. I could hear him breathing now. Not labored, but controlled, like he was savoring it. The bedroom door opened. My heart pounded so loud I thought he'd hear it. I turned and saw Ethan's wide eyes, his chest rising too fast. His breathing was sharp, too loud. I reached over and clamped a hand over his mouth. Then, the closet door opened. I heard the hangers scraping the rail. Then nothing, just footsteps, closer. And then they stopped, right above us. His boots, black, worn, now facing the bed. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I could hear him shifting, like he was crouching. Then, "You think we can run for it?" I whispered, barely audible. Ethan was about to respond when a scream tore the silence apart. The man reached under the bed and grabbed Ethan by the ankle, dragging him out. "Ethan!" I shouted, scrambling after him. Instinct took over. I reached under the bed and grabbed the old baseball bat that leaned against the wall. I hadn't even remembered it being there. And I swung. The bat cracked against the man's arm with a sound I'll never forget. A wet, cracking noise followed by a snarl of pain. He dropped Ethan, who crawled free. "Run!" I screamed. We bolted, down the stairs, out the back door. This time, we locked it behind us. The neighborhood was too dark, too quiet, no time to knock on doors. We made for the woods behind Ethan's house, crashing through the brush. Branches slashed our arms. The leaves beneath us betrayed every step. We dove behind a thick bush, barely hidden. Then I saw him. He stepped into the backyard, silhouetted by moonlight. He scanned the tree line. His eyes swept past us. Then, paused, turned back. I ducked. "Sam," Ethan hissed. "He's coming." "What?" "Get up, run." We sprinted. The branches whipped our faces, but we didn't care. We had to put distance between us and him. Ethan tripped. We both went down hard. Leaves are scattered around us. We held our breath. Then, crunch. He was 2 trees away. He stopped, waited, then turned and walked off. We waited until the sound faded, then made a mad dash back to the house. Ethan fumbled with the keys, hands shaking, before we burst through the door and locked it behind us. He called the police. I turned on the floodlights, and that's when I saw him, at the edge of the woods, half hidden behind a tree, just watching. And then he stepped backward and vanished. That was 5 years ago. I'm 21 now. Ethan and I are still best friends, but we've never told anyone the full story. We each gave our own version to the cops, left out the prank call. No one believed us anyway. They chalked it up to a home intrusion gone wrong. But I remember every second of that night, every breath, every heartbeat. I've changed phones 5 times since then, but I still can't forget the way that man said, "Yeah," like he already knew me, like he was expecting me, and the way he asked, "You sure your name isn't Ethan?" I still wonder. Was it just a terrifying coincidence? Or did we call someone who had already been watching? I still remember the smell of that summer. Cut grass, firewood, and distant honeysuckle. It was July of 2010, and I had just turned 14. A weird age where you're not quite a kid anymore, but nowhere close to grown. That summer, I was spending a lot of time at my friend Brian's place in rural Pennsylvania. His family had a big property outside town, an old farmhouse, a barn that smelled like rust, and a backyard that seemed to stretch forever into the woods. One Friday, Brian's parents left for the weekend. They had a wedding to attend in Pittsburgh and wouldn't be back till late Saturday night. So, naturally, we made plans for pizza, video games, and probably staying up until sunrise. Only, plans changed. Around 8 p.m., we were halfway through a game of Halo when headlights swept through the living room curtains. Brian peeked outside. Crap, my mom's back. Turns out the bride got sick or something, so the wedding was postponed last minute. Brian's parents had driven 4 hours back, just to end up home again. His dad gave us a smile and a, "Hey boys," but Brian looked deflated. We weren't allowed to stay up all night now. No horror movies, no loud music. His little sister was already asleep. That's when Brian had an idea. "We could sleep outside," he whispered, "in the tent." The old camping tent had been sitting in his garage since 5th grade. I wasn't wild about the idea, but I didn't want to be the lame one. So I shrugged. "Yeah, sure. That sounds cool." We grabbed flashlights, a pile of blankets, and set the thing up in the backyard, not far from the wooden fence that bordered the property. A single yard light buzzed from the back wall of the house, casting long, warped shadows over the grass. The fence, a rickety row of graying slats, stood about 50 feet away. We pitched the tent in maybe 10 minutes, laughing and fumbling with the poles. It was too warm for sleeping bags, so we just lay out the blankets, cracked open a bag of chips, and killed the flashlight. The glow from the yard light gave us enough to see. Brian fell asleep fast, like he always did. Within 20 minutes, he was breathing softly and steadily beside me. I, on the other hand, just lay there, staring at the canvas above us, listening to the hum of bugs and the soft rustle of trees. The quiet out there is different than in town. It's thick, like it presses against your ears. There's no traffic, no hum of air conditioning, just the wind and whatever lives in the dark. I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, closed my eyes, counted backwards. Nothing worked. And that's when I heard it. Creak, rattle, creak. At first, I thought it was a branch swaying in the wind, but the sound didn't come and go like it should have. It was rhythmic, deliberate. It was coming from the fence. I sat up slowly, holding my breath. The sound continued, like something was pressing against the wood, like a weight shifting, testing. I didn't want to freak myself out, but the longer I listened, the worse it felt. It wasn't the wind. The sensation hit me then, like a wave over my skin. I was being watched. I reached over and gently nudged Brian. Hey, wake up." He groaned. "What?" "Listen," I whispered. "Do you hear that?" He blinked at me, disoriented. "It's the wind." "Number, it's coming from the fence." He sighed, rubbed his face. "You want me to go check?" "Number, I need to pee, and I don't want to go out there alone." He rolled his eyes, but sat up. "Fine, I'll stay awake. Go pee." I grabbed the flashlight and unzipped the flap. The yard was still bathed in that yellowish glow from the nightlight. And then I saw him. A man, leaning against the fence. His head was down. His arms were at his sides. His whole body was pressed against the wood, as if he were waiting, or pushing, or listening. My breath hitched. I turned off the flashlight in a panic and dove back into the tent, whispering sharply, "There's someone out there." Brian shot upright. "What?" "By the fence. He's just standing there." As if it were timed, the creaking stopped. Dead silence. Brian looked at me, face pale now. "Okay, forget everything. Just run." He moved fast, unzipped the tent in one motion, and stepped out, and screamed. A sharp, terrified scream that jolted me to my feet. I didn't ask questions. I ran. We both bolted for the back door, bare feet slapping against the grass. Inside the house, gasping, I slammed the door behind us and locked it. Brian was white as a sheet, shaking. "What did you see?" I asked. He swallowed. His voice barely came out. There was someone standing right next to the tent, not by the fence, right beside it, arm's reach. I felt sick, like my body was still catching up to the fear. We woke up his parents. They were groggy, confused. His dad checked the backyard, but found nothing. Still, we didn't go back out there. No one mentioned the tent. Instead, we climbed into Brian's room upstairs, shut the door, and locked the windows. But I didn't sleep, because the creaking came back. We had cracked the window slightly open. Summer nights in rural Pennsylvania get sticky, even at midnight. And through that tiny gap, I could hear it again. Creak. Rattle. Creak. I crawled toward the window, slowly, carefully. Nothing in the yard. But the sound continued. Brian stirred, half asleep. "What is it?" "Still there," I whispered. "Are you serious?" "I don't see anything, but I hear it." We stayed up until morning. Eventually, the sun rose. The light made everything look normal again. The grass sparkled with dew. The trees swayed lazily in the breeze. We went outside around 7 a.m. The tent was empty, untouched, but the fence. One of the wooden boards was cracked down the middle, like someone had leaned their full weight against it, again and again. Pressing, pushing. Brian's dad chalked it up to age. "Probably warped," he said, but we knew better. That tent's been in storage ever since, and Brian's family moved a couple of years later. New job, new town. We still talk, but we've never spent another night outdoors together. It's been 15 years. I live in a city now, with constant noise and glowing streetlights, and I still can't sleep with the window open. Not because I'm afraid of burglars or animals, but because I'll hear it again. That slow, deliberate creaking. And this time, I might not be fast enough to run. I left the house with the front door still swinging open behind me. It was over something stupid. One of those arguments that starts out about dishes or bills or whatever and morphs into something uglier, something deeper. My wife and I had been scraping through a rough patch for months, and that night, it finally broke wide open. I wasn't proud of the way I shouted, or the way I left, but I needed air, and I needed space. I sat in my car for maybe 10 minutes before calling the only person I could stand to talk to, James. He picked up on the first ring. "You all right?" "No," I admitted. "You want to come over?" I didn't hesitate. "Yeah." "Doors open." James lived in one of those houses that always make you feel like a guest, no matter how many times you've been there. It was big, clean, minimalist in a way that made everything feel curated. His wife had passed away a few years back, cancer, and he never remarried, never even dated again. My wife always hated his house, called it pretentious, cold, said it was his way of showing off, and maybe there was some truth to that. But that night, I didn't care. I pulled into his driveway a little before 11 p.m. The porch light was already on. James met me at the door with 2 glasses and a bottle of Glenlivet. "Rough one, huh?" he asked, handing me a glass. "You have no idea." We drank, sat out on his deck for a while, talked about life, his loss, my marriage, how time seems to speed up once you pass 35. He was easy to talk to, always had been. When the bottle was half gone, he said, "You can crash here tonight. Spare bedroom's all yours." "Thanks, but I'm heading back early in the morning. Just needed to cool off." He nodded. Still, no sense in driving. He led me down the hall to the guest rooms, 3 of them, all side by side. He opened the one in the middle and flicked on the light. Clean sheets, fluffy pillows, no personal touches. "These 2 on the ends are always locked," he said, gesturing to the doors on either side. "Keep some stuff in there, old electronics, a few valuables. Just stuff I don't want guests rummaging through. You know. Got it. And my room's right across the hall if you need anything. Appreciate it, man. He clapped me on the shoulder and disappeared into his room. I undressed, turned out the light, and climbed into bed. The silence was thick, not peaceful, more like padded, insulated, like the house had no breath. That kind of silence doesn't help when your mind is already noisy. I stared at the ceiling, playing through everything I should have said to my wife, or shouldn't have. My thoughts were a mess. And then I heard it. Tap, tap, thud. It came from the room next door. I sat up, ears straining. Tap. I told myself it was James. Maybe he went into the other room to get something. But then I remembered. It was locked. I got out of bed and stepped into the hallway. His door was shut. No light under it. I walked over to the room on the left, the one he said was locked. Tried the knob. Still locked. The sound came again, softer this time, like something brushing against the wall. I knocked quietly on James's door. He answered in a t-shirt and boxers, rubbing his eyes. What's up? Hey, sorry, I just thought I heard something in the next room. He squinted. What kind of something? Movement, like someone's in there. He gave me a skeptical look. No one's in there. It's just storage. I know, it's probably nothing. Just weird. Old house, he said, already backing into his room. Creaks and groans. Try to get some sleep. I went back to bed, but sleep wouldn't come, because 10 minutes later, I heard it again. Tap, tap. Then, a voice, software muffled, like someone talking to themselves behind the wall. I bolted upright. That was not the house creaking. I grabbed my phone, crept to James's room, and knocked again. Louder this time. He opened the door, already looking annoyed. Seriously? I heard someone talking in that room. His face changed then, a seriousness I hadn't seen all night. You sure? I nodded. He didn't say anything, just disappeared for a moment and returned with a key ring. We walked down the hall together. I felt the tension in his body. He wasn't brushing it off anymore. He unlocked the door to the left room. The smell hit us first. Stale sweat, dust, and something faintly metallic. James flicked on the light. The window was open, wide. The curtains fluttered in the breeze. Drawers were open, papers scattered. The closet door was cracked, a mess of clothes hanging from its handle. And the bed. The covers were pulled back, the pillow dented. Someone had just been lying there. James walked in, slow, cautious. What the hell? He opened a drawer. Empty. Another. Also empty. My watches, he muttered. Gone. I turned toward him. What does this mean? But he was already sprinting to the third guest room, keyring in hand. I chased after him. He fumbled with the lock, cursed, opened it. And just as the door swung open, we both saw it. A figure. Dressed in black, face covered, leaping out of the open window onto the patio roof below. James shouted and bolted outside. I followed. By the time we reached the yard, the figure was gone. We looked in every direction. Nothing. Just trees and darkness. When we went back upstairs, our adrenaline still thudding in our ears, James walked into the third room and froze. Don't come in here, he said, his voice hoarse. But I stepped in anyway, and wished I hadn't. Blood on the sheets, dried, dark, and smeared. A butcher knife was on the closet floor. More drawers were torn open. More things are missing. We stood there for a long time, trying to make sense of it. Later, James would call the police. They'd take statements, dust for prints, say all the things cops say, but nothing came of it. The truth was far worse than anything we'd guessed. Someone had been living in his house, sneaking through rooms, eating his food, watching us. We'd joked earlier about how fast his groceries disappeared. He laughed and said, "I must be stress eating in my sleep." It wasn't funny anymore. The timeline didn't lie. This person had probably been there for over a week, maybe longer, sleeping just feet from James's bed, hiding when guests came over, moving at night. We don't know how they got in, or how many times they'd watched us from behind the walls. All I know is this: the bedroom door I slept beside that night, it wasn't empty. And to this day, when I stay anywhere new, I check every door. Because sometimes you're not alone, even when you think you are.